These motherfuckers got scraps too, don't get caught lacking. Y'all seen these old cowboy movies? You go to the bar, you about to get tried. You go out in the bar, you got there drinking with your brothers and that shit, and you about to get tried out here, but don't be caught lacking. Don't kill your brother off some bullshit, man. Don't hurt your people, man. This is for protection only, man. I got family out this bitch, man. I got brothers out this bitch. I got to protect. Somebody trying to run up on us. We lacking. What gonna do? Fight a nigga with a machine gun? Now we're gonna bust your ass. We'll cut your head off. Bring it back to the Lord, man. UPK shit, man. Hey, fam.
She say I'm obnoxious. Say I got way too much confidence. Say it's a problem. All I do is try to pull a woman. They say I'm a monster. But really, it ain't nothing. I'm just like my brothers. But shit, you know you look better with me, yeah. Girl, you know you look better with me. I pull up and then shock. I do a dance on what the fuck. I judge you, I run it up. Come and fetch a girl, boy, stop, bitch. Okay, you know you look better with me. I pull over lines. I'm a judo with a nigga pride. I'm just like a lion. Want my woman cook, clean, fuck, and shut the fuck up, yeah. I got bigger piles of work about than you in the adultery. But shit, you know you ain't going nowhere. Hey, checking my mood with the bass. Try to walk to the place. Ice on me, come and skate. You really a whole one escape. Yeah, we up, fish your face. Or outwork me, what you think? Pretty girl, good taste. Wanna know all my traits. You know I'm on attention. I'm James Brown to the Israel. Bullets long, yeah, extensions. The nigga hate what they mention. I pull up how I'm gifted. I'm Mike Jackson with the fist. Beat it like I'm Thriller. She say I'm obnoxious. Say I got way too much confidence. Say it's a problem. All I do is try to pull a woman. They say I'm a monster. But really, it ain't nothing. I'm just like my brothers. But shit, you know you look better with me, yeah. Girl, you know you look better with me. I pull up and then shock. I do my dance on what the fuck. I judge you, I run it up. Come and fetch a girl, boy, stop, bitch. Okay, you know you look better with me, bitch, you basic.
Love you when you dead, but hate you while you living. Only make a mention when it's beneficial. Oh, you can't keep it solid, I ain't fucking with you. Fuck a fake friend, show is over, close the curtain. Told you that they loved you, laughed at you when you was hurting. One thing about that UPK, this brotherhood for certain. Dress you up in all black, urge you up to put that work in. Same niggas that was on the block putting that work in. Abandon that lifestyle, cause now I know my purpose. Coming from a place where a black man life is worthless. 400 plus years, yeah, living out them curses. I blame the so-called leaders in the churches. Was supposed to save our soul, instead they led us to the hearses. Backstabbed and betrayed by the people you would die for. Your family ain't family, so-called friends switch sides on you. Crack and take a knee on your neck, whisper and die, boy. So I stay strapped with the Kaepernick, that's the firearm. Gotta watch your back, you know them demons out here lurking. If I don't know shit, then I know one thing for certain, look. They hate it when you up, but love it when you down. Love you when you dead, but hate you while you living. Only make a mention when it's beneficial. You can't keep it solid, I ain't fucking with you. They hate you when you up, but love it when you down. Love you when you dead, but hate you while you living. Only make a mention when it's beneficial. You can't keep it solid, I ain't fucking with you. I say
fuck the fake love and disloyal behavior. Brotherhood is a weapon, but bitch niggas is contagious. Hating your elevation instead of hitting the pavement. Watching your every move and never give motivation. Situational friendships get way with adversity. And these days, just a little bit of your kindness a luxury. I'd rather you keep your distance, be a fuck nigga too close to me. Prefer to fuck with fear niggas than house niggas with notes on me. Get a shirt off my back for devoted niggas with loyalty. I noticed the lack of devoted niggas that's trustworthy if you ain't in no black. Ranked up, I'd give 2 fucks for free. Death before dishonor is a must. It ain't no choice for me, I'm bred different. Was never one to die, just bullshit, I'm very different. Fuck all the information out of pulpits, I'm led different. Been taught to follow a code. Israel law, statutes, commandments, freely given, never sold, nigga.
They hate it when you up, but love it when you down. Love you when
your heritage back, when you take your culture back, when you stop trying to be a second-class citizen, and stop asking for reparations. and start demanding repercussions.
That's right.
This is what the Bible is saying, man. So what Captain Yakinak just said with this Edomite here, man, what he's doing, that's honorable.
That's right.
This is an honorable thing that he's doing right here, man.
Right.
You white people in America should look at this and see how he operates.
Right.
You understand? Who's the next speaker we got coming up, man? Regard what? Find the next speaker we got coming up, man. Get the devil a hand, man.
All right.
There's some humility right here, man. Some humility. You don't find this every day in America. But guess what? Each and every one of them gonna do this. But what did Christ say? Every knee gonna bow.
That's right.
Every tongue gonna confess.
That's right.
This is fresh.
The future belongs to Israel.
That's right.
Hey, shalom. Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai Barakathon. Yahweh Shemalathon by Hashem Yahweh Shai. This is the ISUPK, started out of 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commanding General Yohana. We teach the truth concerning the Bible since 1969. We've been teaching that so-called Black, Hispanic, and North American Indian are descendants of the lost 12 tribes of Israel. And our oppressor is the devil that the Bible speaks of. All right, you tuned in with Priest and Officer Howard Moore, ISUPK, Kentucky. And tonight, this is our Monday night history class. You see the topic? Is voting the answer. Is voting the answer. Since we have a presidential election coming up here shortly, next month, it's only right we talk about this here election, man. But before we get into it, I want to invite every so-called Black, Hispanic, and North American Indian. Tune in, ISUPK Kentucky, on all platforms, all week long content. Monday night history class, Tuesday brotherhood class, taught by Officer of 1,000, I'm Wangabar. Wednesday law class, taught by Officer of 1,000, ISUPK. And Wednesday night, the podcast, the baddest podcast around, the baddest podcast in Kentucky, man. Cry Out, Spare Not podcast. Come get the biblical breakdowns, the biblical solution to all of the viral videos going across the internet. And every now and then on Sunday, I drop y'all with an extra history class. But tonight, ISUPK Kentucky, under Commanding General Yohana, ISUPK Kentucky Monday history class. Tonight's topic is voting the answer? Let me fit to get into it. Now, in previous classes, I've gone into, the history of race and politics and how race has always played in the political arena in America. I've talked about the history of the Democratic Party and the Republican Party as it relates to so-called Blacks, Hispanics, and North American Indians. But tonight we finna get into the candidates. All right, we finna get into the platforms of Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. All right, like I said, in previous classes, I got into the history of the Democratic Party, the history of politics as it relates to race. But tonight we finna get into the candidates themselves and what platform they stand on. And as usual on this Monday history class, I got a slideshow for y'all. And then we finna get into it with the Bible. So let's go ahead and walk this down. Now, before we get into voting, right? We can't talk about voting unless we talk about the Electoral College. All right, because as a lot of us are familiar, the popular vote doesn't win the presidential election. All right, the presidential election is decided by what's called the Electoral College. All right, so source. All right, as usual, I got sources along with my slideshow. It says, in the United States, the Electoral College is a group of presidential electors that is formed every 4 years during the presidential election for the sole purpose of voting for the president. The process is described in Article 2 of the U.S. Constitution. All right, so we're all familiar with the fact that the popular vote doesn't win the election. All right, a group of electors is formed every 4 years during the election for the sole purpose of voting for the president. All right, this is how it's done. All right, this is how it's been done forever. All right, next slide. Now, we can't talk about, like I said, we can't talk about voting unless we talk about the Electoral College. We can't talk about the Electoral College until we talk about the 3/5 clause. All right, and if you're not familiar, the 3/5 clause is what made Black people 3/5 of a human being. All right, the Electoral College is intertwined with the 3/5 clause, and we finna get into it. All right, the Electoral College's racist origins. All right, commentators today tend to downplay the extent to which race and slavery contributed to the framers' creation of the Electoral College, in effect, whitewashing history. Of the considerations that factored into the framers' calculus, race and slavery was perhaps at the foremost. So what they're saying is that race and slavery, right, is the calculus that was used to put this whole thing together. All right, race and politics is always tied together like your left hand and your right hand. All right, keep that in mind. Race and politics is tied together like your left hand and your right hand. Let's walk. All right, James Madison. Now, he was a former president who professed a theoretical commitment to popular democracy, succumbed to the realities of the situation. The future president acknowledged that the people at large was, in his opinion, the fittest to select the chief executive. Now, I want y'all to keep in mind this word democracy. We're finna talk about democracy towards the end of class. And we're finna talk about how a democratic vote or a mob rule or a mob mentality is actually what got our King Jesus Christ killed. All right, keep that word democracy in mind for later on. All right, there was one difficulty, however, of a serious nature attending the immediate choice by the people, the right of suffrage and the influence in the election on the score of the Negroes. So this is going to go into what's called the 3/5 clause, and it's going to break this down. All right, because of the considerable non-voting slave population, slave states would have less clout under a popular vote system. All right, slave states would have less clout under a popular vote system. The ultimate solution was the indirect method of choosing the president, one that could leverage the 3/5 compromise. Again, the 3/5 compromise is what made Black people, or what made the slave population at this time, 3/5 of a human being. Again, race and politics has always been tied together like your left hand and your right hand. All right, when the time came to agree on a system for choosing the president, it was all too easy for the delegates to resort to the 3/5 compromise as the foundation. The peculiar system that emerged was the Electoral College. Here's your source. All right, the 3/5 compromise, the very thing that made Black people 3/5 of a human being, the very thing that made so-called Black people inferior by law, all right, is what influenced the origin of the Electoral College. All right. The very law that made black people 3/5 of a human being is what established the electoral college that we use today. Now let's take this a step further. Now we were always told in school that this beef was over the northern states and the southern states. All right, the northern states were so-called the so-called free states, and the southern states, the deep southern states, Alabama, Mississippi, Texas, etc., were considered the slave states. Well, let me teach y'all something real quick. All right, the 3/5 compromise was an agreement reached during the 1787 United States Constitutional Convention over the inclusion of slaves in the state's local population. Now, I want y'all to hear me on this one. All right, in 1787, there were no such thing as southern states. All right, in 1787, there was no such thing as southern states. All right, Mississippi didn't exist. Alabama didn't exist. Texas didn't exist. There was no such thing as southern states in 1787. All right, when the 3/5 compromise was reached, it was in 1787, before the southern states even existed. All right, we're still talking about the 13 colonies, and I'm finna prove it. All right, this count will determine the number of seats in the House of Representatives and the number of electoral votes each state will be allocated. Again, we're talking about the 3/5 clause, the 3/5 compromise, the law that made black people 3/5 of a human being, and how that evolved into what we know as the electoral college. And again, this is history right here. This is history right here. You didn't get in school. All right, I'm finna prove this. All right, in 1787, there were only 3 states in the United States. All right, when the 3/5 clause was agreed upon, there was only 3 states in the United States. All right, only 3 states had ratified their constitution in 1787. Now, they assumed the rest of the 13 colonies would join on, but when the 3/5 clause was put into law, only 3 states existed. All right, Delaware, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. All right, and guess what? 2 of them states, Delaware and New Jersey, were slave states. All right, Delaware and New Jersey were slave states in 1787. All right, the first state to join the Union was Delaware. All right, which ratified its constitution December 7th, 1787. Pennsylvania followed December 12th, and New Jersey on December 18th. All right, here's your source. Now, again, the other 13 colonies joined on, and these are the dates. These are the dates that the other 13 colonies joined on to the Union and became part of the United States. But again, when the 3/5 compromise was established, only 3 states existed. All right, Delaware, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey. All right, and 2 of those were slave states. And like I said, these are the dates here that the rest of the colonies became states and joined the United States. And these are the dates. These are the dates that slavery was abolished in these states. Now, we said Delaware, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey were the only 3 states that existed when the 3/5 compromise was agreed on. All right, and 2 of those 3 states were slave states. All right, Delaware didn't abolish slavery until 1865, and New Jersey didn't abolish slavery until 1866. All right, and these are the rest of the states, the original 13 colonies that eventually joined on. All right, but if you look, many of these states, the majority of them, all of them are on the East Coast, but the majority of them are in the Northeast. Like I said, when the 3/5 compromise was established, the southern states, the deep South, didn't even exist yet. All right, all of these slave states existed on the East Coast and mainly in the Northeast. All right, look at New Hampshire. All right, New Hampshire didn't abolish slavery until 1857. All right, New York didn't abolish slavery until 1827. Rhode Island didn't abolish slavery until 1842. All right, Connecticut, 1848. Massachusetts, 1783. Maryland did not abolish slavery until 1864. All right, and New Jersey. We always hear about Texas, right? We always hear about Texas didn't abolish slavery until June 19th, 1865. New Jersey didn't abolish slavery until January 23rd, 1866. Since we want to talk about slave states, all right, we're talking about the states that existed when the 3/5 compromise was established. And again, the 3/5 compromise is what led to the electoral college that we have today. I take it a step further. All right. Tennessee, a state in the Deep South, didn't become a state until 1796. All right. Texas doesn't become a state till 1845. Mississippi, 1817. And Alabama, 1819. All right. None of these places existed or were even thought of when the 3/5 compromise was agreed upon. All right. Tennessee, Texas, Mississippi, Alabama, none of these places existed when the 3/5 compromise was being agreed upon. All right. The laws that made Black people 3/5 of a human being all came from states in the Northeast. All right. All came from states in the Northeast. All right. Let's walk. All right. Now that we got that history lesson out of the way, let's get into the Democratic Party. All right. Now that we got that quick history lesson out the way, let's get into the Democratic Party. All right. The Black community is now entering its third generation of single parenthood as the norm, something that rose astronomically with the advent of the Great Society. Now, if you're not familiar, the Great Society was it was the so-called war on poverty in the 60s under the LBJ administration. All right, under the administration of Lyndon B. Johnson. Part of the Great Society plan was to subsidize single motherhood. Part of the Great Society plan was the man in the house rule. All right, if you're not familiar, the man in the house rule was a rule that stated that only single mothers were worthy of government assistance. All right, and this is what caused the breakdown of Black and Hispanic families. All right, this is what caused women to kick men out the house and chose to marry the government instead. All right, this is before the feminist movement. This is actually where the feminist movement comes out of. All right, and if you're not familiar, there's a movie on it, Claudine. If you're a little bit older, you know, I know you're probably familiar with it, but the movie Claudine actually explains this whole thing. All right, but the Great Society was the welfare programs of the 60s under LBJ. It subsidized single motherhood. It says single mothers were the only people worthy of welfare. And this caused a chain reaction to nowadays the majority of Black children grow up in single mother households. All right, this is the breakdown of the Black and Hispanic household, and it was done by the Democratic Party. All right, again, while we outline a number of negative consequences resulting from single parent families, it's worth pulling one out in relation to the destruction of the Black family in America. There is no better predictor of male criminality than being raised in a fatherless home. And again, the Democratic Party, under the administration of Lyndon B. Johnson, created this atmosphere. All right, created the atmosphere of fatherless homes in the Black and Hispanic community. And it's proven that there's no better predictor of male criminality than being raised in a fatherless home. All right, 70% of all juvenile offenders come from single mother homes. All right, 60% of all rapists, 72% of all murderers, and 70% of long-term inmates all come from single mother households. All right. And this is the legacy of Lyndon B. Johnson. This is the legacy of the Democratic Party. All right. The only serious congressional opposition to the landmark Civil Rights Act of 1964 came from the Democratic Party. All right. The Democratic Party was the one that objected to the Civil Rights Act of 1964. All right. And when all their efforts to enslave blacks, keep them enslaved, and then keep them from voting had failed, the Democrats came up with a new strategy. If black people are going to vote, they might as well vote Democrat. And here was a quote from President Lyndon Johnson. All right. Lyndon Johnson said he'd have us voting Democrat for the next 200 years. The same man that broke up the black household, the same man that broke up the Hispanic household, said he'd have us voting Democrat for the next 200 years. And here we are today. The Democratic Party gets 90% of the black and Hispanic vote. All right, let's walk. Now, Kamala Harris, who is she? Who is she? All right, well, her great-great-great-great-grandfather was a notorious Irish slave owner who bought Jamaican plantation and traveled to London to fight abolition. All right, so her kinfolk on her father's side were Irish slave owners in Jamaica. So if that's the case, then who was this woman right here?
Mean pot of greens. In fact, people used to ask Marlon, so I know how to make a mean pot of greens. In fact, people used to ask me to make greens for them for Christmas. One year, I had so many that I had to wash that we ended up washing them in the bathtub.
Hold up. Man, hold up. Hold up. She said she washed the greens in the goddamn bathtub. All right, you better not wash mine in the sink. All right, you better put mine in the pot and wash them. You better not wash mine in the raw sink. This woman said she washed them in the bathtub. All right, this is how we know. This is how we know. Well, this is one of the reasons that we know she's not our people. All right, we don't wash greens in the bathtub. All right, she is a descendant of an Irish slave owner in Jamaica and somebody that went all the way to London to fight against abolition. All right, here's another. Here's another.
Make your greens. Do you put turkey in them? Do you
Bacon.
Put nice.
Now, who paid him to do that? Did y'all see it? Who paid him to do it?
So, how do you make your greens? Do you put turkey in them? Do you
Bacon.
Put nice. My grandma
I
used
do
to put
bacon.
She's
Who paid this man to do that? Who paid him to do it?
Garlic. I put white vinegar.
Yes.
I do. So I start with, I slice up my garlic. But no, first I chop up the bacon
fry it.
and get all that fat going. Then I put garlic, some chili peppers, and then a lot of water and a little chicken stock. And I let
Look at this sister here. Yes. Yes. No one she'll make her greens that way. She know
it go for a while before I put the greens in. And then, right, so you get that going and all that flavor. And then I put the greens in for a couple hours. Then I do vinegar. And then I cheat and do a little Tabasco.
No, that's...
How many times is he finna mention vinegar? She done said vinegar about 3 times, didn't say sugar not nan time. All right, mentioned vinegar 3 times and didn't mention sugar not nan time. All right, and sure didn't mention no goddamn seasoning. She ain't said nothing about no goddamn seasoning.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah, but Tabasco of all, like I like Louisiana hot sauce, but Tabasco has that right amount of vinegar.
And she gonna mention that goddamn vinegar again. I ain't hear. So now she done mentioned vinegar 4 times and then say nothing about sugar.
Yeah, and that's how I do my greens.
I see why you get invited.
I see she ain't say nothing about no damn seasoning. I want to know who paid these people to sit here and hype up them bitter ass greens she talking about making that she washed in the goddamn bathtub. Let's walk. All right. Harris stresses abortion rights an early vote and impact Atlanta rally. Thousands of supporters, including Usher, rally in battleground Georgia as campaign focuses on early votes. Look at this.
I love you more, but I love Kamala Harris even more. I want her to be our next president of the United States.
Now we shouldn't be letting Usher influence us to do any goddamn thing. Don't he got herpes, allegedly? It's clear he's made terrible choices in the past. I know we're not finna listen to Usher. We're not finna listen to Usher tell us who to vote for. But celebrities, entertainers, athletes, for some reason, we look up to these people. All right. Some reason we look up to entertainers, athletes, rich people. All right. And it really goes back to an ideology called a talented tenth that was talked about by W.E.B. Du Bois that we finna talk about in a minute. But it really goes back to the Bible. It really goes back to the Bible. If I may, on your own time, read the story about the rich man and Lazarus. So let's listen to. I said we finna talk about the campaigns of these people. All right, what do these people stand for? All right, what is that platform? Let's walk.
And I pledge to you, when Congress passes a bill to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law.
And that right there is the platform, is the main platform of Kamala Harris. All right, the platform of Kamala Harris is the murder of Black and Hispanic babies. Is the murder of innocent Black and Hispanic babies in these abortion clinics. All right. Her plan is to open this thing wide. All right. Her plan is to bust this thing wide open. All right. No pun intended. So Black women have been experiencing induced abortions at a rate at nearly 4 times that of white women for the last 3 decades and likely much longer. The impact in years of potential life lost given to abortion's high incidence and racially skewed distribution indicates that it is the most demographically consequential occurrence of the minority population. All right. What it's saying is this is the most important thing right now to the minority population. All right. The impact in years of potential life lost given abortion's high incidence and racially skewed distribution indicates that it is the most demographically consequential occurrence for the minority population. The scientific community has refused to engage on the subject, and the popular media has essentially ignored it. In the current unfolding environment, there may be no better metric for the value of Black lives. All right, where we stand on abortion, there's no better metric for the value of Black lives. All right, the evidence is clear that for many decades, Black children in the United States have not had and do not have today an equal opportunity to survive until birth. Now, you want to talk about white privilege? This is white privilege. All right, to the so-called conservatives, all right, to Republicans that say that white privilege doesn't exist, this is fucking white privilege. All right, it says the evidence is clear that for many decades, Black children in the United States have not had and do not have today an equal opportunity to survive until birth. Let's walk. The most recent CDC report on abortion in the United States indicates that in 2016, the Black abortion rate is 3.8 times higher than the white rate. The Black abortion rate is nearly 4 times higher than the white abortion rate. And this is the platform of Kamala Harris. Let's hear it again. Let's hear it again.
Wade, as President of the United States, and I pledge to you, when Congress passes a bill.
She says, my pledge to you. Now, I know we shouldn't believe a goddamn thing that a politician says, but I believe it when she says this.
And I pledge to you, when Congress passes a bill to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law.
The most recent CDC report on abortion indicates that the black abortion rate is nearly 4 times higher than the white rate. The abortion rate amongst Hispanic women is double the rate of white women. All right, this is the platform of Kamala Harris. Again, somebody who is a descendant of Irish slave owners in Jamaica. A woman that washes greens in the bathtub to get the goddamn black vote. All right, the 1970s in the United States. All right, not the 1870s, the 1970s. The United States purposely sterilized as much as 42% of Native American women of childbearing age, some as young as 15. All right, in the 1970s, 42% of Native American women were purposely sterilized. And this is the platform of Kamala Harris. All right, this is the platform of Kamala Harris. And of course, we all know the whole Planned Parenthood movement comes from a she-devil named Margaret Sanger. All right, we know the birth control movement, population control movement became inseparable in the people's minds during the early years, led by Margaret Sanger in 1915. Population control referred to a large-scale social policy of limiting births throughout a whole society or in certain groups for the purpose of changing economic, ecological, and or political conditions. Like I said, race and politics is tied together like your left hand and your right hand. All right, population control ideas were dominated by eugenics and marred by racism in the United States. All right, Margaret Sanger started the Negro Project in 1939 with the aim of expanding birth control in Black communities. All right, the Negro Project, started by Margaret Sanger, had the aim of controlling Black births. Now, this would have never took hold. All right, we never would have went for this. But here's what they did. We would have never bought into our own destruction. But this is what happened. Margaret Sanger had an ally right here. W.B. Du Bois, big badass Pan-African. All right, Margaret Sanger had an ally in W.E.B. Du Bois. All right, 1939, Du Bois served on the advisory council for Sanger's Negro Project, which was designed to serve African Americans in the South. All right, he took this show on the road because Margaret Sanger was specifically concerned with controlling the Black population in New York or in the Northeast as a whole, and in New York specifically. But W.E.B. Du Bois served on the council for the Negro Project. And again, the Negro Project had the aim of controlling Black births in the Black community. Like I said, we never would have went for this. But W.E.B. Du Bois signed on in 1939 as counsel for the Negro Project. And he aimed to take this show on the road and control Black births in the South. All right, in an article for June 1932 issue of Margaret Sanger's Birth Control Review entitled A Negro Number, Du Bois argued that birth control for poor African Americans was necessary for the race, and that people must learn that among human races and groups, as among vegetables, quality and not mere quantity is what really counts. All right. A Pan-African has to answer for this. All right. A Pan-African has to answer for this. A Pan-African has to answer why big badass W.B. Du Bois, all right, big bad Pan-African, all right, Africa for the Africans, Mother Africa, has to explain why he signed on as advisory counsel for Margaret Sanger's Negro Project for the purpose of controlling Black births and the Black population. All right, a Pan-African got to answer for this. All right, a Pan-African got to answer for this. All right, I would suggest leave this nonsense alone. Come inside the ISUPK under Commander General Yohana and leave this shit alone. All right, this is Pan-Africanism. All right, again, big badass Pan-African, W.B. Du Bois, Africa for the Africans. All right, was an ally of Margaret Sanger. And not just the ally for Margaret Sanger, took her show on the road and took her show down south to stop Black births. All right, 2010 census results reveal that Planned Parenthood is targeting minority neighborhoods. 80% of its surgical abortion facilities are located within walking distance of African American or Hispanic neighborhoods. All right, 80% of abortion clinics are in our neighborhoods. Again, we never would have went for this. We never would have went for this until W.B. Du Bois signed on in 1939 as advisory counsel for Margaret Sanger's Negro Project, and he took this thing on the road. All right, he took this thing down south. This is how this message spread throughout the country. All right, this is how we accepted this. And now today we believe that it's a human right. This is why we believe it's a human right. Because of this bastard right here. All right, this bastard right here. This is why we believe this. This is why we believe abortion is health care. No, abortion is genocide. All right, abortion is genocide. And this is, like I said, the platform of Kamala Harris. So the title of my class was a question. Is voting the answer? All right, the title of the class is voting the answer? So now we talked about Kamala Harris. Let's get on Donald Trump. Let's get on Donald Trump. All right, this was Frederick Trump. This was Donald Trump's grandfather. All right, was swept into the United States in one of the biggest waves of mass migration in history. All right, during the 1880s and 1890s, 1.8 million Germans immigrated to various European and overseas destinations. All right, young Friedrich arrived in New York in 1885, and he joined 200,000 of his compatriots who had already settled in the metropolis, forming a distinct little Germany. After working for 6 years as a barber, he was caught by the gold rush and moved west, opened up a chain of restaurants and hotels in Washington State. Hospitality did not only include food and lodging, but also alcohol and prostitution. All right, this was in, I don't know if this was in Prohibition. All right, but linking alcohol and prostitution together leads me to believe anyway that both of them were illegal. All right, so Donald Trump's ancestor was a criminal. All right, Frederick anglicized his name and became a U.S. citizen. All right, by 1901, Frederick had made a small fortune and decided to return to his hometown in Southwest Germany. He married his childhood sweetheart and planned to settle down. But the Bavarian authorities, however, would not let him. They claimed that he had left Germany as an illegal immigrant, evading taxes and a compulsory 2-year military service, Frederick pleaded, but to no avail. The Trumps were evicted and resettled to New York. Donald Trump's ancestors were illegal immigrants. This is the same man that wanted to build a wall on the southern border with Mexico. All right, forget the fact that South Asians are the #1 illegal immigrant in the United States, and they come in through the Canadian border. All right, South Asians are the largest undocumented immigrants in the United States, and the majority of them come through the northern border. But this man wanted to put a wall on the southern border with Mexico, and his ancestor was a goddamn illegal immigrant. Here's your source. All right, KKK leader David Duke says, of course, Trump voters are his voters. All right, former KKK leader David Duke is running for U.S. Senate and tells NPR that he believes he'll be getting the votes of Donald Trump supporters, and he reiterated in his own words for Trump, saying he's 100% behind the Republican presidential candidate's agenda. Why would the Klan be backing Donald Trump? Let's walk this down. All right, in an attempt to appeal to black voters, former President Donald Trump says he has something in common with them. He's being treated unfairly by the criminal justice system. Oh, poor Donald Trump. He said, I got indicted for nothing, for something that is nothing. Speaking over a weekend at the Black Conservative Federation's annual gala, they were doing it because it's election interference. And then I got indicted for a second time, and a third time, and a fourth time. And a lot of people said that that's why the black people like me, because they've been hurt so badly and discriminated against. I'm being indicted for you, the black population, he said. He continued, the mugshot we've all seen, the mugshot. And you know who embraces it more than anybody else? The black population. This man actually believes that his mugshot is what's going to win the black vote. All right. This man is trying to equate being black with being a criminal. All right. When Donald Trump is the criminal, when Donald Trump's ancestors was a goddamn criminal and an illegal immigrant. All right. But the reality is, all right, the reality is we're not criminals. All right. We're not criminals. We learn criminality from y'all. All right, we learn criminality from our oppressor, the devil that the Bible speaks of. All right, we learn criminality from these people. All right, Donald Trump faces new Central Park 5 lawsuit after debate remarks. All right, the 5 men wrongfully convicted of a 1989 New York City assault, who became known as the Central Park 5, has filed a defamation lawsuit against Donald Trump. All right, anybody from New York should be pretty well familiar with this story. All right, the report states the suit filed in Pennsylvania federal court was prompted by Trump's recent remarks during his presidential debate with Kamala Harris, where he falsely claimed that the men were responsible for a crime and that the victim had died. All right, even to this day, Donald Trump says the Central Park 5 was guilty. Because again, he believes that black people are criminals. All right, he just equated being a criminal with being black. All right, Trump took out full-page ads in 4 prominent New York newspapers calling for the death penalty against the 5 boys aged 14 to 16. The ad campaign reportedly cost $85,000. The Central Park 5 have long maintained their innocence, and their convictions were overturned in 2002 for DNA evidence that exonerated them. All right, they were exonerated in 2002. All right, just like 54% of black people that are convicted of felonies are exonerated, are overturned, because again, we're not the criminals. All right, our oppressor, the devil that the Bible speaks of, these are the real criminals. But again, this man is trying to equate being a criminal with being black. And there's a reason he's doing it. We finna get into it. All right, Trump tells police not to worry about injuring suspects during arrest. This is why he's trying to equate being a criminal with being black. This is why he says that his mugshot is what's going to get the black vote. Again, he's trying to equate being black with being a criminal, and this is the reason right here. It says, and when you see these thugs being thrown into the back of a paddy wagon, you just see them thrown in. Rough, I said. Please don't be too nice. Like when you guys put somebody in the car and you protect their head, you know the way you put the hand over? Like don't hit the head and they just kill somebody? Don't hit the head. I said you can take the hand away. All right, this man made a joke about banging somebody's head on the car when you throw them in the back of the cop car. All right, and this was just made July 28th. All right, Freddie Gray ended up dead after the kind of treatment described above. And despite his death, Donald Trump made sure the police officers around America knew that if they used illegal, unnecessary force when arresting suspects, he will have their back. Like I said earlier, 54% of black people accused of crimes, or 54% of crimes black people are convicted of get exonerated, get overturned. That's why it says when arresting suspects, he will have their back. All right, Trump is making it known that he is all for police brutality in the black and Hispanic community. All right, this is his platform. We talked about abortion and the murder of black and Hispanic babies being Kamala Harris's platform. Well, police brutality is Donald Trump's platform. Let's walk. All right, deaths in police custody in the United States. All right, the death of black men at the hands of white police officers in recent years have raised a number of questions about the treatment of racial minorities within the criminal justice system, as well as about patterns of arrest-related deaths more generally. So we're talking about people that are victims of police brutality and people that die in police custody. Some researchers have called for congressional mandated government databases to be more thorough so they can find better patterns in the violent interactions between police and civilians. The recent death of George Floyd in Minneapolis and the mass protests that have followed have pushed the issue back into the national spotlight. Floyd, a black man accused of buying cigarettes with a counterfeit 20, died after a white police officer kneeled on his neck for 9 minutes to restrain him. All right, for years, legislatures, community leaders, and others have wanted to know how many black Americans have died while being apprehended, arrested, or transported by law enforcement officers. Fair question. And how does that number compare with the number of men and women of other races killed each year in police custody? No one knows the official answers to those questions. All right, no one knows the answer to how many black people die in police custody and how does it compare to other races of people and how they die in police custody. All right, and this, like I said, this right here is the platform of Donald Trump. All right, we just heard him say he gives police full reign, all right, to rough people up when they throw accused people in the cop car. All right, he's made it painfully clear that he's all for police brutality. This man said in another interview, he said he could stop crime with 1 24-hour reign of letting cops do whatever the fuck they want to do. All right, it has been 5 years since Congress passed the Death in Custody Reporting Act of 2013, which went into effect in 2014. But federal officials have not yet gathered the data and made it public. All right, Robert Scott of Virginia introduced the legislation created based on an earlier law that expired in 2006, and that requires states to submit quarterly reports on deaths in police custody. Academic research provides insights, but officers an incomplete picture. A study published in the New England Journal of Medicine in 2016 finds there were 222 legal intervention deaths in 2013, or cases in which someone was killed by an on-duty law enforcement or other peace officer. The study based on data from just 17 states. However, in none of the largest states, California, Florida, Illinois, New York, Pennsylvania, and Texas were included. That's why they say nobody knows the number. All right, there are no statistics on the number of Black and Hispanic people that die in police custody. All right, it says, according to the paper, nearly everyone killed by an on-duty officer in those states that year were male and between the ages of 20 and 54. It finds that Black people were most likely to die in police custody. All right, the rates of death were higher among Blacks and Hispanics than among whites. And according to the numbers, all right, Hispanic is 3 times as likely than a white person to die in police custody. And a Black man is 6 times as likely than a white man to die in police custody. And again, the picture isn't even complete because the largest states aren't even included in the report. But from what we see, a Black man is 6 times as likely than a white man to die in police custody, and a Hispanic man is 3 times as likely than a white man to die in police custody. All right, a newer study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Science in 2019 estimates that Black men have a 1 in 1,000 chance of being killed by a police officer during their lifetime. All right, Black man, Hispanic man, Native Indian man, listen to me. All right, I want y'all to hear me on this. All right, we have a better chance of being killed by a police officer than hitting the lottery. All right, hear me on this. All right, Black man, Hispanic man, Native Indian man, we have a better chance of being killed by a police officer than hitting the lottery. All right, and this is the platform. This is the platform of Donald Trump. All right. So before we get into the Bible, I said earlier, I want y'all to keep the word democracy in mind. All right. Democracy is no different than what's known as a mob rule or a mob mentality. All right. Democracy is nothing more than a mob rule where 51% of the people may take away the rights of the other 49. All right. And this is what we live under. It's lucky. We might have some technical difficulties. Lucky. Okay. I think we good. I think we good, Israel. I think we good here. All right. Democracy is nothing more than mob rule where 51% of the people may take away the rights of the other 49. All right, let's get into the Bible. All right, let's get into the Bible. All right. I said earlier that a democratic vote is what got Christ killed. All right, Jesus Christ, our King, Yahweh Shai in Hebrew, the greatest Black man to ever walk the face of this earth, was killed by a democratic vote. Let's walk this down. All right, Matthew 27:16. And they had then a notable prisoner called Barabbas. This is before Christ was crucified. And Pilate gave the crowd a choice between Christ or Barabbas. All right, verse 17. Therefore, when they were gathered together, Pilate said unto them, whom will ye that I release unto you? Barabbas or Jesus or Yahweh Shai, which is called Christ. Verse 18. For he knew that for envy they had delivered him. Verse 19, when he was set down on the judgment seat, his wife sent unto him, saying, have thou nothing to do with that just man, for I have suffered many things this day in a dream because of him. So now we have Pilate's wife saying, have nothing to do with this whole situation here. All right, verse 20. But the chief priests and elders persuaded the multitude that they should ask Barabbas and destroy Jesus, or Yahushua. Verse 21. The governor answered and said unto them, whether of the twain will ye that I release unto you? They said Barabbas. Again, Pilate is talking to a crowd of people, and they have a choice between which prisoner they're going to set free, Barabbas or Christ. All right, verse 22. Pilate saith unto them, what shall I do with Yahushua or Jesus, which is called Christ? They all say unto him, let him be crucified. Verse 24. When Pilate saw that he could prevail nothing, but that rather a tumult was made, he took water and washed his hands before the multitude, saying, I am innocent of the blood of this person. See ye to it. Verse 25. Then answered all the people and said, his blood be on us and our children. All right, verse 26. All right, Matthew 27 and 26. Then released he Barabbas unto them. And when he had scourged Jesus, or Yahushua, he delivered him to be crucified. All right, so the greatest man ever to walk the face of this earth, a black man the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, was murdered, was crucified by a Democratic vote. All right, was murdered by a Democratic vote. All right, so last time we chose Barabbas. How about this time we choose Christ? How about this time we say fuck Kamala Harris and fuck Donald Trump? And how about this time we choose Christ? All right, so with that, we'll go ahead and end it. Shalom. Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua Barakathon. Yahweh Shemal Athon Ba'Shem Yahushua. Class dismissed.